second day of rehearsals at Eurovision 2015 are now over. We saw 8 more acts. I'm going to start this off by saying my winner was Georgia's Nina Sublatti. This was far and away the best visual and perhaps vocal performance we've seen yet. Everything from her goth Victoria's Secret look to her voice, which was pitch perfect. I don't have enough to say about this. It's just amazing.
Definitely the best of semi-final one. I don't know whether she was the best vocalist. I do think that she was great, but I think there are people with just more powerful voices. Like, she has a very particular voice and she can belt out Warrior, but I think Traincher was maybe a bit better on Walk Along, but it's inconsequential. It's minute details. The fact is that entire package, just so good. I keep saying that. So good, but it was.
She owned it. She was the only one on stage, except she didn't look alone or lost, and everything from the wings to the giant eye and then just the smoke and her costume, it all worked really, really well. And the press room was just so enthralled with her that every time she performed, people stopped, and she got a round of applause for virtually every rehearsal she did, which was a first in the first 2 days.
This was vengeance for Lizzie Pop. They may not have succeeded at Junior Eurovision, but I have a feeling they're going to climb the scoreboard here. Yeah. She's so camera aware. Belarus, Uzari Mamuna, 2 people on stage, yet it felt more empty than with one Nina. She knows how to fill a stage. And also, she arrived with everything sorted. The camera angles, the costume. She's a strong warrior, and she's really slaying.
It was the gasp that everybody was like, oh, wow. When we first realised, the smoke was going on, the background was right, it was perfect. It was perfect.
And I guess, Porrick, who was your other winner?
My other winner was Boggie. She's come on leaps and bounds. Everybody was worried that she was going to be dull and boring and forgetful. On the CD, you forget about her. But she came out with this stunning stage performance, and there's a load of guns and they form into this tree, and then the floor is all the stars and constellations, and that turns into the globe, and it's a monochrome, and it's all really classy. She looks vintage Hollywood glamour nearly in her dress. It was really good, and she manages to capture, she really worked the camera. You could feel her. When her eyes watered, you nearly felt your own eyes watering, and the goosebumps. It was stunning.
Ulrich, I've never heard you so emotional. I'm gonna get emotional, Chris.
I think what was really good was what annoyed me in the Adele performance was it just felt so this is my message, look at this. This does it much more subtly, but so much more effectively at the same time. The memory that stands up for me of the entire actual day, as much as I loved Nina, was that AK-47 tree. That visual is incredible. It's still giving me shivers down my spine when I think about it now. It was that good.
Guns and trees, yes, she brought everything, and yet it's so subtle the way it's done. For instance, even the universe they show, it's not a fancy universe with lots of stars. It's just dots on a few circles, but it works. The simplicity is what gives us power. She said to us in our interview that she was emotional, that she was really feeling it, and you can't fake that. It comes through, and it was just gorgeous. The fact that it goes from monochrome to color, to me that reflects her transition from out of the semifinal to the final. There's no way this isn't going through. The jury will pull this through. Voters will pull this through. You're going to feel something.
I think it was this year's Common Linnets moment. And potentially it could do as well. Maybe not quite as high, but could be on the left-hand side.
And Chris, who is your other grower, shiner?
So I'd probably say they were the top 2, obviously. I'd definitely say that Albania, Elhaida wasn't incredibly good, but she got that note that we've all been worrying about. She sort of grew in confidence as the rehearsals went on. The camera angles aren't quite there yet, and it is an issue with the song where the last minute is the most memorable part, but that last minute is so good, and the way that the camera just spins around her, the camera is just glued to her, and she's so photogenic.
And in the press meet and greet, she told us that she actually had to be silent for 3 days. She had lost her voice, so clearly she was having major issues, and that might have been affecting her live performance. But, after those 3 days, she is back.
I was slightly disappointed. She was fine vocally, but just her outfit and the staging and the camera work, it didn't tell a story. I don't think it did justice to her song. And, there was obviously maybe an element of it being last minute because she seemed frustrated in the first run through. So I don't know if she's fully there yet. She's not as high in my rankings as I would have had her going in this morning.
That's a hard song to stage, though. Even when you think, you're thinking in your head, what they're going to do. I can't think of any way that they could stage that where it'll be like really good. So
Obviously put her inside a massive flower and have her bloom in the final minute. Now, I'm surprised we haven't mentioned Russia's Polina Gagarina. This was amazing. To me, this was actually my winner up to that point. The white, this was a supernova of fabulosity. It blew up in my face. I was like, I loved it. I mean, the white, the purity, the peace, the serenity. Polina brought it, but it wasn't cheesy. It still looked expensive. It still looked on point. I mean, this could have gone either two ways. It would have been a disaster, or it would have been glorious. And you know what? This was glorious.
Yes, Polina was glorious in the dress. The dress was sparkled and the lights were shining and it glowed. I would have got rid of some of the extra trimmings. I thought the band was a bit too much. The singer's fine, Polina fine, the LED was fine, except the globe looked cheap in comparison to Boggie's. But everything else, Polina was stunning, but the band was a bit too much.
Now, I'm really surprised. There's several other acts that we haven't mentioned. Serbia, Belarus, Denmark, Romania. Of these, who stood out to you? For a good reason.
I don't know if any. Denmark were perfectly competent. I do think that they'll qualify. I think that they were good. They just sort of like got on with it. It's not changed that much from Dansk Melody Grand Prix. The guys, like in the interview we did, they just seem like happy to be there. They're just happy-go-lucky kind of guys. At the end of the day, like, they're Denmark. They don't want to win, really, but they'll probably be happy with, like, a low placing in the final.
I was most disappointed with Belarus today. I think something's missing. We talked about this earlier, but like no one's mentioned it yet, and I think because it's slightly forgettable. Uzari and Maimuna look fantastic. They're really giving us top model potential. They're looking at the camera. You know, the song, it sounds quite nice as well, but it's just they need that other prop, and perhaps it's going to arrive soon. I hope it does.
Yeah, it's missing something. It, like, whether it's dancers or prop, there's something like they don't fill the stage. They look lost. They're not connecting. Like, the LED is fine. The song is fine. As you said, they look fine. After the first 30 seconds, you get bored.
What I think we were saying beforehand was Serbia and Hungary was surrounded by Serbia and Belarus, and we were like, oh, Hungary's going to get lost because of that. Hungary completely overshadows Belarus now, and that is a major problem. They need some staging, and there is a possibility they don't have it. I mean, in the interview we did with Voltaj, they say that their staging isn't right, which you could probably tell when you watched it, because that was really just dull, and the suitcases, like, they didn't even seem to have their heart in it, I thought, and in the interview you could tell, like, they weren't that happy, so...
Yeah, I mean, I quite liked the Romanian performance, but I was kind of half paying attention because I was at the coffee bar, but it's like, I think it could still qualify. They've said that not all of their props or the designs they wanted have arrived or been implemented, so hopefully that will push them over. But I've just got to say, I'm sitting here on my phone looking at Bojana Stamenov, like, this image says it all. It was crazy, but crazy good. I mean, to me, this reminds me of the early noughties Eurovision, where it's like, sometimes goes a bit too far and it's a bit too discotheque, but because she's so strong vocally, it works for me, and like it rises above kitschiness and cheesiness to something forever.
I'm kind of think that the staging is so bad that it's good. That, like, it's just totally bonkers and bizarre, and it stands out. I'm not a fan of the song, but it really kind of electrocuted the crowd, and after, that's going to be in the middle of the show, so people are going to lag a bit. It was first thing this morning for us, but viewers at home won't see it until, who was last yesterday?
Macedonia.
Like, after Macedonia, that'll be a huge jolt of life. So it is really good, it's memorable, her hair seems bizarre, but it could all work.
I was loving that hairdo. You know, Dolly Parton, she says the bigger the hair, or the higher the hair, the closer to heaven. And Serbia, she's going to heaven, y'all.
I like how you say that that she would like electrocuted the crowd, because it like she had been electrocuted with that hair. I liked it. I do think the fact that it was the first thing on in the morning and we knew what kind of like a big day ahead we had. I wonder if that maybe was a bit of fatigue from the night before, and I don't know. I just feel like it probably will be better when we see a full run-through of it in the actual running of the semi-final. I just wasn't feeling it massively. She was good. She was what we expected from Bojana.
Well, that's what we think. What do you think? Let us know here on our YouTube channel, Wiwi.tv, or at Wiwibloggs on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, Snapchat, all those things. Search, you'll find. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye!